Al-Asad Airbase is an Iraqi Armed Forces and United States Armed Forces base, located in the largely Sunni western province of Iraq, Anbar. It was the second largest U.S. military airbase in Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom.Until January 2010. It was the home of the II Marine Expeditionary Force, multinational Force West. Other major tenants have included the 3rd ID's 4th IBCT, 82nd Airborne Division Advise and Anbar.It Brigade, 332nd Medical Brigade, 321st Sustainment Brigade, Vertical Onboard Delivery Detachment-1, VAQ 142, Navy Customs Battalion Juliet, elements of the Iraqi Army's 7th Division, and the United States Air Force. Due to numerous amenities aboard the base, service members referred to it as Camp Cupcake. Geography. The base is located in the Hit district of Anbar Governorate, about 100 miles west of Baghdad and 5 miles west of the village of Khan al-Baghdadi. The airbase is divided by Wadi al-Asad, a wadi whose course passes through the oasis along the base's western edge and then continues eastward, emptying into the Euphrates River at Khan al-Baghdadi. This oasis is locally referred to as Abraham's Well. The Ain al-Asad spring surfaces within the base and flows into the Wadi al-Asad. Geologically, the base resides in the Al-Amad sector of the Syrian desert, composed mostly of a rock and gravel steppe. History. Kadisha Airbase. The base was originally named Kadisha Airbase, a reference to the Battle of al-Kadisha. Kadisha was one of 5 new airbases built in Iraq as part of the Project Superbase, launched in 1975 as a response to the lessons learned during the Arab-Israeli Wars of 1967 and 1973. The base was built sometime between 1981 and 1987 by a consortium of Yugoslavian companies under contract to the government of Iraq. 2 Yugoslav government agencies led the project. The FDSP acted as the project manager and Aero Engineering acted as the project engineer, known as Project 202B and Project 1100. The companies involved in its construction included Granite, Vranica D. Sarajevo I.L. Lavchovic D. Split and Union Invest D. Sarajevo. The $280 million project at Kadisha included accommodation for 5,000 personnel and the necessary infrastructure including public facilities and fortified military facilities. The hardened aircraft shelters built here and throughout Iraq by the Yugoslavs were nicknamed Yugos. At the time they were considered state-of-the-art but were rendered obsolete in 1991 after the development of the GBU-28 laser-guided bunkerbuster bomb. Prior to the 2003 invasion of Iraq, the base housed 3 units of the Iraqi Air Force, which flew MiG-25s and MiG-21s. It was abandoned shortly after the start of the 2003 invasion of Iraq. It was initially known as Objective Webster, and then eventually was renamed Al-Asad Airbase, which means the Lion in Arabic. The base was initially secured during the Iraq War by the Australian Special Air Service Regiment on 16 April 2003 and was turned over to the 3rd Armoured Cavalry Regiment in May 2003. The 3rd ACR was relieved by the Marines of the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force in March 2004. Al-Asad became the largest U.S. base in western Iraq and the western equivalent of Baghdad's Green Zone. Al-Asad was a major convoy hub, hosting hundreds of fuel and supply trucks every day. Huge shipments of fuel were commonly run along the dangerous routes coming out of Jordan, and despite insurgent attempts, a majority of these convoys arrived at their destinations untouched. A single convoy operation would sometimes last a couple days, with trucks on the road for over 8 hours a day. Like other large bases in Iraq, al-Asad offered amenities including an indoor swimming pool, movie theater, post office, morale, welfare and recreation center, several gyms, post exchange, Burger King, Cinnabon, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Pizza Hut, Subway restaurant, combat support hospital, and a Green Beans coffee shop. The base is self-sufficient for producing drinking water, having both a reverse osmosis water purification plant and a bottling plant. Most of the housing on base are cans, shipping containers converted to or manufactured as living areas. Some of the original barracks still remain, however, and were used as well. Overflow tents were used when required, such as transition periods, which can nearly double the number of troops on the base. The base was a common destination for celebrities and politicians visiting American troops in Iraq, such as Chuck Norris and Toby Keith. While the towns and routes near al-Asad were as dangerous as anywhere else in Iraq, it is relatively remote and is easily accessible by air. The base often received indirect fire from Iraqi insurgents, which usually caused little to no damage, though there were occasional casualties. The controversial song Haji Girl was recorded at al-Asad in 2005. On September 3, 2007, President George W. Bush, Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Peter Pace visited al-Asad and spent Labor Day with the service members deployed to the base. As the Marines withdrew from Iraq, al-Asad remained one of the last American-occupied bases in Anbar. In 2009 and 2010, Marines with the 2nd MEF removed the majority of gear and personnel from the base. The MEF concluded its operations at al-Asad in March 2010. The last of the civilian personnel were airlifted from al-Asad on December 16, 2011, and the base officially closed on December 31, 2011. Intervention against the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, when Marines with Special Purpose Marine Air Ground Task Force Crisis Response Central Command returned in September 2014. Commanding Officer Colonel Jason Boehm said it was like a scene out of the Twilight Zone. Our headquarters was a former Marine Air Logistics Squadron headquarters. There were items that were just left there when we picked up and left, literally newspapers with the date the last person that was in that office still there, except there's a lot of dust on it now. In late October 2014, the airbase and surrounding region came under repeated attack by Islamic State militants. 50 U.S. advisors were sent to the base, to which is located as the ISIL stronghold. Also, to conduct a site survey for U.S. advisors can use the installation to support the Iraqi military, said Navy CMDR. Elisa Smith, a Defense Department spokeswoman. It now hosts 320 advisors. During the early morning hours of the 14th of December 2014, U.S. Marines hosted there allegedly clashed with ISIL alongside the Iraqi Army and tribal forces near Ain al-Asad base, west of Anbar, in an attempt to repel them from the base, of which includes about 100 U.S. advisors in it at the time when ISIL attempted to overrun the base. According to a field commander of the Iraqi Army in Anbar province, said that the U.S. force, equipped with light and medium weapons, supported by F-18, was able to inflict casualties against fighters of ISIL organization. and forced them to retreat from the al-Dolab area, which lies 10 kilometers from Ain al-Asad base. Sheikh Mahmoud Nimrawi, a prominent tribal leader in the region, added that U.S. forces intervened because of ISIL started to come near the base, which they are stationed in, so out of self-defense, he responded, welcoming the U.S. intervention and saying, which I hope will not be the last. Quote, this was said to be the first encounter between the United States and the Islamic State in 4 years. However, this claim has been stated to be false by the Pentagon. The airbase and surrounding region came under repeated attack by Islamic State militants in October 2014. On January 5, 2015, the Pentagon acknowledged that ISIL has been ineffectively mortaring the base. On February 6–7, U.S. Marines and Danish soldiers with Task Force al-Asad taught Iraqi soldiers basic defense and ambush techniques. In February 2015, ISIL took control over most of the town of al-Baghdadi, which is close to al-Asad Airbase, and began what the Defense Department spokeswoman called ineffective indirect fire against al-Asad base. Later, according to CBS News, 8 suicide bombers managed to get on too, but were killed by an ISF counterattack almost immediately. Further, CBS News reported that ISIL been regularly shelling Ain al-Asad for the past couple days, but there have been no reports of damage from the shelling of the attempted bombing on Friday. Quote, in early March, Iraqi forces cleared out al-Baghdadi from ISIL.